Welcome back to the channel, guys, for another Thailand story. This story has been sent in from John, who's married to a Thai lady in Chaing Mai, but he kind of got bored with life and wanted to see what Pattaya was like, and he ended up having a girlfriend experience. So let's jump into this story. I recently came across your channel and thought I would share my story with your listeners. My name is John, and I have been happily married to my Thai wife Tar for a few years now. We live a quite normal and boring life in Chaing Mai with our daughter, Ali. I will not go into detail about how I met my wife or how I moved to Chaing Mai, none of that boring stuff, because my story is about what has happened recently and how I was drawn in to the nightlife of Pattaya. I could have quite easily become another Farang statistic, but fortunately, I was able to see reality from fantasy. I believe many of us have had similar experiences when visiting Pattaya, where we believe that this fantasy could actually come true. For those watching from the outside, the stories shared here or elsewhere plant small ideas in your mind, quietly growing until they push you to do something unexpected. Since being in Thailand for many years, I had never been to Pattaya, Phuket, or anywhere where you would find the wild nightlife. I met my wife Tar as soon as I landed in Thailand for the first time. As we met online and had been chatting for about a year before, we decided to meet. So pretty much, as soon as I got there, I was in a relationship and did none of the bar stuff that most single men do. The area we live in Chaing Mai has quite a lot of expats that I have become good friends with. One of them, that I talk to often, has spent a lot of time in Pattaya, and it seems every time we speak, he remembers a story to tell me. And every time he finishes telling me about one of his escapades in Pattaya, it plants something in my mind and leaves me wanting to visit. But because I am married and have a life here, I've always pushed them thoughts to the back of my mind and never acted on them. That was until recently. My wife and daughter had been invited by one of my wife's family friends to a wedding and a week away in Pai. I thought that would be a good time to tell my wife that while she is away for the wedding, I'll be visiting family back at home, but in reality, I was going to Pattaya. I had never experienced anything like that in Thailand before. After spending all my time in Thailand as the typical but frustrated husband, I finally decided to take an unexpected turn. Booking a flight to Bangkok and then taxi to Pattaya was surprisingly simple, and coming up with a cover story was even easier. A made-up 2-week trip to my country to visit some family and old friends. Before I go on with my story, I want to be completely honest. I am a middle-aged man, I am overweight, I am bald, and I do not get any attention from women, other than my wife, who rarely gives me much attention nowadays anyway. I have never really had much attention from ladies in my whole life, to be honest, and I think a part of me craved that so much that the thought of Pattaya was just too much for me to fight off. When the day finally came to board the plane, I felt strangely numb and a bit shocked that I was actually going through with this crazy, secret solo trip. I was scared, but excited at the same time. I had never really lied to my wife before this, and I certainly had never cheated. I prepared by reading everything I could about the scene and exploring the online community and dating apps. Even though I thought I was ready, it was still overwhelming. Everything changed when I landed in Bangkok. I became so nervous and overwhelmed with guilt that I decided I was going to stay in Bangkok and not do any nighttime stuff. Stupidly, I booked the first hotel I found online, and it just so happened to be just off Soi 4. That night, after the nerves worn off and I was feeling normal again, I decided I was going to go for it. I am on my own, she will never know. Bangkok is a city that is so different from the quiet place in Chaing Mai that I call home. But it awakened a spark in me that had been quietly burning for years. I went out onto Sukhumvit Road and started on Soi 4. After Soi 4, I headed towards Soi Cowboy on Sukhumvit Road, getting some Dutch courage from bars along the way. Once I finally got to Soi Cowboy, I was amazed with everything that was going on there, and I really did not know where to look. I went into one of the bars, can't remember the name now, but there were balloons being popped from darts coming out of you-know-where. This is something I had never experienced before, only heard stories about it. The night after that, I explored more of the bars and ended up in Nana Plaza. Now this place really got my attention. It was expensive for Thailand standards, but still a very interesting place if you like that kind of stuff. There's girls everywhere. After 3 nights of Nana Plaza and wandering the side streets packed with bars and massage parlours during the day, I decided to take the plunge and got a taxi to Pattaya. I was staying in a hotel on Soi X side, which is just off of Soi Buakhao, and there are bars and girls as soon as you step foot outside of the hotel. I wasn't in the hotel long before I was back out again, ready to see if everything I've heard about this city is true. The first bar I went into, I was greeted straight away by lots of girls, and one came to sit with me and take my order. This was all new to me, but I did not want them to see that I was a newbie and that this was my first night in Pattaya. I got chatting with the girl that got me my drink. She was pretty nice, though I had already seen better while walking around. I did fancy some company for my first night, and to be shown around. I thought it would be cheaper anyway than buying lady drinks in every bar I went into. So I asked the girl from the first bar if she would like me to bar find her and we go bar hopping together. She was younger than me, obviously, and she was very eager to come with me. I had a great time with her. She had lots of energy and drank like a fish. We did bars on Soi Buakhao, Tree Town and New Plaza. Tree Town was the best for me, seemed a lot more lively than the other bars we went to. We ended up finishing the night together, and that is the first time I had been unfaithful to my wife since meeting her. The rest of my first trip to Pattaya was a blur of bar girls, freelancers, massages, and sipping coconuts on the beach during breaks to recharge. I loved it. I loved the attention and the freedom that Pattaya offers. It filled a part of me that I had been missing my whole life. I finally felt what it was like to have attention from beautiful ladies, the chance to do whatever I want, and the chance to just go all out. Yes, I know that attention was not genuine and it's their job. I'm not stupid. I know what it was, but still, it was a nice feeling to have. Like I said before, my wife Tar is pretty much the only woman that has ever shown me attention. I know there was so much more of Pattaya that I didn't get to see, but I made the most of the time I had. Honestly, I left feeling like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt young again and I felt free. The best way to describe the experience is that the moment I stepped out of the taxi in Pattaya, I felt like I had been transformed into a rock star, with every woman wanting a piece of me. It was a completely new experience, something I had never felt before in my life. Adult Disneyland was the perfect way to describe it. I was talking to people that told me they lived there, and I was pretty jealous that they get to experience this anytime they want. As much as I loved Pattaya, I do not think I could live there, though I would like to live close, maybe in Bangkok or something, and then head to Pattaya for the weekend every few weeks. Sadly, the 2 weeks came to an end quite quickly, and I headed back to my wife in Chaing Mai, returning from my made-up trip to my country. For the next few months, I was holding on to those fond and unforgettable memories I made in Pattaya and thinking about when I could return. I'm not sure how to explain, but leaving Pattaya to go back to my boring life in Chaing Mai, it just was not the same anymore. My advice for people that want to travel to Thailand: go to Pattaya last, because you might get addicted to it like I did. I love my wife and daughter, but having a taste of that single lifestyle that is amazing in Thailand, it was just hard to go back to normal again. Chiang Mai is a lovely, chill place, but for any of you listeners that have been to both Pattaya and Chiang Mai, you know there is a huge difference in the places. Because of my situation and having a family, I could not just get up and leave for another holiday. So I did the next best thing, but the thing I probably shouldn't have done. I downloaded one of those Thai dating apps. I wanted to feel the attention that I got from the girls in Pattaya. I wanted that feeling of girls wanting to talk to me again, even though I know it was business. A part of me really did stay in Pattaya when I left. I was immediately intrigued by the girls on this app. Some of them were absolute quality beauties. Obviously, I kept all this secret. It was just my nighttime activity when my wife was in bed. During this time, I met someone on one of those Thai dating apps, and I was interested in her straight away. She was perfect. If I had to say what my dream woman looked like, it would be her. At 37, she was much older than the young women I had spent time with during my Pattaya trip. But she stood out in a way none of them did. And she was still nearly 20 years younger than me. I was shocked that she would match with an older man like me that is not exactly physically attractive, but I was not complaining. She was absolutely stunning, with a body that made all the others look ordinary. Her only flaw was a large tattoo that covered part of her back, and enhancements that wasn't quite perfect, but those were quite easy to overlook. I have never really been into women that have tattoos, but for her, I could easily make an exception. We got chatting and just talking about random stuff. I was honest with her that I was married and I don't really know what I'm doing on these apps. She was also honest with me. Well, I think she was. She told me she is a bar girl on Soy 6 in Pattaya, but will be working as a waitress in a family restaurant in Buriram for a few months. Not like it would have bothered me if she was still a bar girl, but I had no reason not to believe her, because she said she was in Buriram to help with her son that she had with a previous Thai boyfriend. We spent months talking online through texts and video calls. As bad as it sounds, this was exactly how me and my wife met, talking online and having video chats. Obviously, my wife was still in the dark about all this. She had no idea about me being on dating apps and my desire for the single life and meeting other Thai girls. After a few months chatting with this girl online, I couldn't take it anymore and I had to meet her. We arranged that I would come to her home in Buriram just for a short amount of time to see how we get along, and then I would leave and we would take it from there. So again, I had to make an excuse to my wife and come up with a reason that I will be away for 4 days. I told her that I was going to Malaysia for 4 days because my stepbrother and his mother would be visiting KL. She believed me because we had actually been to Malaysia to meet them a few years back, so it sounded believable. So off I went again to carry on this secret double life I am leading, but this time to meet just one woman, not a whole crowd. Our first visit was short, only 4 days, but it was absolutely overwhelming. She was playing the long game with me and treated me like royalty. I've never had a woman be as exciting or as passionate as she was with me. She did not exactly ask me for any money, even though I would have given it to her, but I was paying for everything. I was staying in one of the nicest little hotels I've ever been to at just $30 a night, only a few blocks from her house. Buriram is pretty cool. There wasn't a lot going on, but neither is there a lot going on where I live. People seem to treat you better there though. In the evenings, I met her family, visited her home, and met with her friends. They loved having a foreigner there. I was like their ATM for beer and food. They were very happy to have someone paying for them. I did not really care at the time though. I was classing this as a holiday, so paying for food and drinks for everyone did not bother me at all. If they had straight up asked me for money, then things would have been different. After we would visit her family and friends, we would go back to the hotel where she would spend the night with me. To say she knew how to push my buttons is an understatement. After I got back to Chaing Mai, we kept chatting online every day. Well, every night when my wife was not around. It didn't take much to convince me to come back for another visit. So again, I had to come up with another lie to tell my wife why I needed to leave again. This time, I kept it simple. I said a friend would be visiting Bangkok and I wanted to see him for a week. She trusted me. I knew that I wasn't into the bar scene, or so she thought, so she allowed me to go. This time, my Pattaya girlfriend, she took a week off and we spent it on the beaches of Phuket. Going to Phuket together, it felt like I was on holiday with my girlfriend. It was amazing. You can't imagine how I felt with her clinging onto me the entire time, whispering sweet little words when we were out in public, and even more when we had privacy. I think the second time with her was even more intoxicating than the first. The first time, it always seemed like we had company with us, either her friends or family. We were never really alone. But this time, we had lots of private time, and we sure did put it to good use, if you know what I mean. Never in my life had I been with one of those women who make men and even some women stop and stare as she walks by. Now, it wasn't just me feeling like a rock star. I was the rock star with the supermodel girlfriend. The week came to an end, and even as I packed my bags and left her, I knew it was just a fling that couldn't last. I had a real life back home with real responsibilities that wouldn't just disappear. I also knew she saw me as a potential life raft, someone who might save her from being stuck as a waitress in the middle of nowhere in Thailand. Unlike the first trip, This trip, she did actually ask me if I could help her out with some money. Just 30,000 baht to pay off some bills and to help out with her child. I had an amazing time with her, and I thought helping her out is the least I could do, so I did give her the 30,000 baht. Deep down, I knew she had a past and was probably one of the most cunning women I'd ever met. But I couldn't really blame her. This was the life she had been given, and she was just trying to make the best of it while holding on to some self-respect. On the surface, she seemed completely in love with me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I could easily be replaced by any middle-aged man with a few dollars to spare. Like I said earlier in my story, although I am no Brad Pitt and far from being attractive, I'm not naive and stupid. I can see things for what they are. This was purely a fantasy for me, and thinking that it could be any more would lead to absolute disaster. When I got back home, after some deep thinking, I let go of the foolish fantasy of giving up everything and leaving my wife to be with her. Yes, in Phuket, it did cross my mind about leaving my wife for this new girl, but it quickly went away. I knew it wasn't going anywhere, but it was a hard truth to accept when part of me enjoyed believing in those fantasies. I really do understand how men can get trapped in these fantasies. It's easier said than done to walk away from it. So, I told her that our lives were just too different and too far apart, and that it wasn't fair to keep her in a relationship where we could only see each other once or twice a year. She knew I was married and had a family of my own, so she knew I would be throwing a lot away just to try to be with her with no guarantee that me and her would work in the long run. She understood and took the news very well, maybe too well for my liking, but we parted on good terms, and I thought reopening that door someday might be possible. Now, almost 5 months later, I realised that I was mostly just fooling myself. We originally agreed to be friends and still talk to each other and stay in contact, but again, that's wishful thinking from both sides. Messages went from being rare and short to going unopened and unanswered. When you know that nothing can really come from this, and it's pointless to keep in contact, then the communication just dies down. In our last exchange, I told her there was a chance I could visit again, but her late reply was that it wasn't a good time as she was too busy trying to get her new business off the ground. Which is probably a good thing really, because if we met again, I would be back at square one with this fantasy. It's hard to accept at times, but I'm pretty sure she's moved on to someone else, putting the same energy and effort into weaving that web with him that she did with me. It's a web I managed to escape from, but with a few strands still tangled around me. Maybe I am being paranoid, but I believe she was playing the long game, and the request for more money would have come sooner or later if I had carried on with her. I'm planning another trip to Pattaya in the near future, but I'm not sure I'll feel the same buzz I did with that incredible girlfriend experience I stumbled into. I see that a lot of people online are against the girlfriend experience in Thailand, but for me, it was one of the best experiences I have ever had. Will the freelancers or bar girls still excite me? Or has the bar been set so high that I won't enjoy my time like I did before? Honestly, I don't know. To me, there's definitely an emotional side to living that type of life in Pattaya. And to be honest, in reality, I should just forget about Pattaya and that life altogether. Although my life in Chaing Mai is extremely boring, I still do have a wife and a kid. I should really focus more on being a better husband and not trying to live a double life while lying to my wife in the process. But that trip to Pattaya, it changed something about me, and I don't think I can go back to the person my wife married. And that is a shame, because I really do love my wife. I just feel like something has been missing this whole time. It's very selfish and devious of me to have done what I did, but I think I needed it. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. The excitement Pattaya brings, the feeling of meeting new people every night, nobody judging what you're doing because they are all doing the same, it's something you can't really explain. You have to experience it yourself. I feel the people that badmouth Pattaya and the type of tourists that go there are just some grumpy old people that have tried to live the fantasy and got burnt in the process. Either way, I'm probably destined to wander the sois and beach road trying to briefly recapture that feeling I had on my first visit. What am I looking for now? Will me and my wife be together this time next year? Will I still be in Chaing Mai? There are a lot of questions that I can't really answer right now because I don't know what the future holds. All I know is that despite what people say about Pattaya, I loved it. If I could go back in time and head to Pattaya when I was younger and before I met my wife, would I do it? Absolutely. That's just my story and my girlfriend experience and experience in Pattaya for the first time. Thanks for listening and be safe out there.